welcome back. You're still watching TV47 Breakfast, and the conversations go on. They actually say that boy child against girl child, that what is going to happen if we do not give them the same empowerment and equivalent space to empower themselves as we are giving the ladies currently in the society. The conversation goes on. It's at TV47KE on Twitter and on Facebook. But right about now, something amazing is happening in the professional world, or the corporate world as it's called. Mostly girls are embracing jobs and responsibilities that initially were covered only by men. Well, this lady calls herself the girl boss, and she has penetrated into film production and directing across Africa. Take a look at the girl boss. All right, girls are definitely breaking the boundaries and going further and beyond. But remember the conversation I told you Victor and I were having in the studio earlier on, and also we started with in the morning, that it has taken a lot for girls to come to a space where they feel as equivalent or as, well, recognized as the boys have been for years. But then again, analysts or psychologists are saying that this is going to cause more instability in the family units, because who exactly is empowering or, bringing up these young men who are going to handle these young women who are completely and absolutely empowered? Victor says, according to every holy book, a woman is supposed to be obedient and submissive, as a man offers protection, security, and provision. But which girl in this generation is ready to take such a position? The conversation goes on. It's at TV47KE on Twitter and on Facebook. And I'm going to ask the young men on set this morning about it as well, even as we look at what's happening in the nation from the eye of the papers. The Star gives us a Wheel 2022 poll, Biruto versus Mudavadi. Politics as usual, and we have a picture that reminds us, or is reminding us, of what happened in the weekend when Mr. Raila Odinga, who's a former opposition leader, and the President Uhuru Kenyatta were together watching the Shemeji Derby, and Mudavadi, Musalia Mudavadi, the NC leader, was also with them while Ruto was traversing the country on the other end. So will 2022 poll be between Ruto and Mudavadi? We're going to see into it in a few. The Daily Nation, the curse of Kenya's vice presidency, taking us back to history, where we heard Jaramogi Oginga Odinga suffering similar plights apparently as Mwai Kibaki, and now we have the Deputy President Dr. William Ruto suffering something similar. Is this a curse of Kenya's vice presidency? What exactly goes on within the executive chambers? We're going to look at that in a few. And then on the Standard, I trust Raila with BBI, says Uhuru. If you remember very well, in the 2 weeks that have lapsed, the conversation has been the President Uhuru Kenyatta not being part and parcel of the caravan that's driving the BBI agenda across the country. And, well, we heard analysts who said because they're not supposed to be presidential functions, others said that this was a government project and this was for the people, and the presidency is for the people as well. Then why on earth was Raila Odinga, or is Raila Odinga driving this agenda? And now the president says he trusts Raila Odinga with BBI. What do you think about all that? I have with me Wakili Rakweri. Umeniambia hilo jina alafu likapotea kabisa in the next second. Nicholas Rakweri, karibu sana. And then we have Edgar Kosgei. And the debate has always been if it's Kosgei or Kosgei. I think we settled on Kosgei.
Kosgei. Kosgei it is.
Okay. Does your grandma call you Kosgei?
No, when I get out of home like that, it becomes Kosgei. In fact, even they don't call me Kosgei, because Kosgei is a big name.
All right.
So when old people want to belittle you, they call you little names.
Okay. Are we going to know the little name?
No.
Okay, sure. All right.
Out of home.
We'll leave it at that. Okay, before we really settle in into what's happening in our country, which is a lot more politics than everything else, we started this morning with a conversation that was compiled by one SICO our correspondent, and one psychologist addressing young men and women mentioned that we are endangering the family unit in our country because we have young women who are absolutely empowered, and they're actually aggressively still being empowered. And yet we have a young man who is still bent on the conventional family unit and system that requires a woman to be obedient and, well, submissive systematically. Wakili, are we endangering the family unit? Are we ready for this kind of setup?
Well, I think picking up from what you're talking about in terms of what empowering is causing with regards to unsettling the family units, and you talk about respect coming in. I don't take empowerment to mean that it's going to empower someone to be disrespectful towards another one. If you look at the history of why the circumstances have been the way they have been, the lifestyle has been different. The roles that men had to undertake were different, such as hunting, fighting wild animals in the forest for you to be able to get the protein necessary for you to survive. And women had to stay at home and do such duties. If you look at the current economic setup that we have, we no longer go physical hunting of wild animals. The hunting we are doing is to make sure that we are increasing their balances in our accounts and such. And this is not a responsibility that should only be left to men alone, because they have been doing it a long time ago. Now, the question that comes in is, every time there is need for change of status quo, those who've been enjoying the status quo will feel threatened. Right. The question is, how are we going to give an education which is proper to the current circumstances to these young men you're saying they are going to be feel
and they're the ones who've been enjoying the status quo, right?
Yes, of course. I'm not among those who are going to feel threatened, just for the record, right. Because this is just a responsibility for us to work together, both men and women as a team, to make sure that whatever we're doing, we are achieving progressively for the sake of humanity. Right. It is not a race of what women are going to achieve is only going to be used as good for women, and what men are going to achieve is only going to be used to be good for men. Generally, if you speak about it and you look at the history, the realization is this. When men were going to hunt, right, they didn't eat the wild game from the wild, and women didn't have to benefit.
Right.
I am wondering why it should be different today, that if you get another participant who's going to come close to you and you work together, you can't work out a plan or a schedule where you can work together as a team and continue to maintain the society. Okay. It is true it's going to shake many, because there are those who may not have the privilege to understand the importance and the necessity of both men and women to participate, both in all spectrums of life, from leadership to economy to any other position, including we being with you here, right, and the benefit of it. It just gives in the new impetus for us to test over the talent. It's not really written anywhere, or if it's written somewhere, then it's absolutely wrong, that there are some things women can't do.
Okay,
for example, a few years ago, it might have been said, Corazon should not be here with us because she's a woman. Right. But you're doing perfectly fine.
Thank you.
So you are an example of just how women should be given the responsibility and opportunity to do what they are supposed to do in the modern economy.
Okay, this is going to be the main conversation if you don't take care. This is ideal. What Wakili says is quite ideal. But realistically, one of the conversations we had yesterday evening actually prompted the question, who should found a family? Because if you're talking about equality at this level, then it simply means a woman can own a home and invite a man to start a family from her home. If that is just the ideal bit of it, is it realistic as well?
Thank you very much for having me.
Right.
I was about to say thank you very much
for having me.
It's a challenging way of life. As Christians, we believe that man was created.
Right.
And the woman was created out of a man. So we are being told that man came first.
Right.
And we have been made to believe that man has his duties to protect the woman, right, and to go ahead and do other things that are bigger in the society.
Right.
But this time, when we are bringing up the girl child,
right,
and we are making the girl child to be the breadwinners of the family, to be people who are in the public, then we have to tell the man to be comfortable with that position. It is all about leadership. of the man in the family. It is all about the leadership of the man in the community. To be comfortable with the woman who is progressive and to be comfortable with the woman who is smart.
Right.
A leader is someone who will develop someone into something. And if the boys are the leaders of the community, they should be told that they are the leaders of the community. And the leaders of the community will bring up every talent in whichever way.
Okay.
Whether you are educated, whether you're not educated, you have that position to grow everyone in society.
All right.
Yes.
So we need to educate the boys, the boys
to relax,
to be okay
easy,
with it.
easy,
You know,
boys,
be okay
boys.
with a woman who pays the bills and says,
Yes.
I need a position,
Pay.
you know, and I demand to be seen and heard and given
Pay
a
the
position.
rent.
All right. And I think we would love that. It's not entirely a different conversation, but Joseph Sangoro, you say you're tuned in from Mombasa. Immaculate Akala, you say tuned in. Tas Mwanzo unasema tuned in from Nakuru. Stay with us. Davis Ingaji unasema streaming live from Kabasiran, Lavington, Nairobi. Ruda, you're saying thanks TV47. I'm watching live from Jordan. Emmanuel Simiyu, quite a fun every day. Shukrani sana Emmanuel Simiyu na shukuru. You're tuned in from Kihoto, Naivasha. Ibrahim comes again and says, beard or no beard, I know I'm still the man. To all the skeptics, allow me to demonstrate. Well, Ibrahim, I have no idea how you would be able to, but that was a conversation that was asking the trending video that talked about beard gang being more masculine. Buena says, talk about the coin. If I toss a coin, what are the chances that I'm getting heads or tail, or even really I cannot finish that conversation or that text? Oh my God. Yes, and thank you very much. I can see like 4 messages from you. Keep on texting and tweeting. The hashtag is TV47 Breakfast. On the very first page of Daily Nation this morning, the curse of Kenya's vice presidency. Is it a curse to be a vice president in the country? I'll begin with you, Edgar, because I know you are quite passionate about this. The history that tells of what Jaramogi Odinga went through.
Yes.
I particularly remember quite vaguely, though, that there was a time that Jaramogi Odinga was against people within the system amassing land for themselves, and there were other proposals like creating a land ceiling and doing away with nepotism and issues like that. And well, that bit of history that I read talked about him feeling like there was too much injustice in that system, and eventually the story leads us to Jaramogi Odinga taking out or resigning because he said he felt like he was not working and yet he was being paid. Take us through that history and why you would think conclusively that it's a curse to be a vice president in the country.
Today, I want to congratulate the Daily Nation for doing a very good job in terms of the reporting and doing justice to the report. We learn from history, and what the Daily Nation showed us is how history is repeating itself. Jaramogi Odinga was ousted from office. It was a very long process of around 2 or 3 years. He was accused of having arms in his office. What is happening right now at the DP's office? In fact, Jaramogi did not buy the arms himself. He was acting on behalf of the president to keep the arms in his office in Jogoo House at the basement. So there were guns at the basement. So when Jaramogi was outside the country, Tom Mboya, his brother, went to the press and called the press to go and witness the kind of arms that Jaramogi is having against the sitting president of the nation. That was the beginning of ousting Jaramogi Odinga. And it was Tom Mboya
Right.
who orchestrated it, one of the brightest minds. And he wanted to take over Nyanza, splitting Nyanza into two. And later, even Tom Mboya himself did not survive the system. After doing away with Jaramogi, he was eliminated. And Jaramogi was deemed a tribal king. And he was out of the picture. And Moi came in. They elected around 8 vice presidents to render Jaramogi useless in the government. The vice presidents of Kenya have faced it rough. And also Mwai Kibaki.
Right.
Mwai Kibaki was also, he was deemed a vice president for Central Kenya, who was caged in Central Kenya, and he stayed there. So vice presidents have gone through very many hard things until there's someone called Mwangale.
Right.
I'm wondering whether it is the grandfather of Philip Mwangale who sits here. He should tell us. There's a Mwangale who came from Western,
right,
who went to Central Province, and he was called a tourist politician.
Right.
At that time of Moi. Mwai Kibaki could not survive even being the vice president until he was ousted.
Right.
Other people were also appointed. Professor George Saitoti.
Right.
Yeah. Vice presidents have never been allowed to enjoy power. And if anyone appoints you as vice president, think twice.
All right.
Think twice.
Okay. Wakili, that brings to the question, can a VP easily rise to presidency? Because again, history only tells us Mwai Kibaki rising to that position. And history takes us back to what happens after independence, and the fact that most African leaders took the presidency with greed and tried as much as possible to be as oppressive as possible to prevent anyone from overshadowing them. And there's history that's mentioned by Edgar Kosgei. Some of the fears that happened within Moi's inner circle was that Kibaki was capable of building a national image, and that probably is the reason why they tried to thwart him. And we can see what is happening with DP Ruto right now. Is it history that is embedded on the kind of oppressive nature of presidency in Africa and in Kenya?
Well, I think it's the history of leadership, that when you are in position number 2 to someone, as in democracies like America, it will go that you have to stay loyal and you have not to die, because it's your responsibility in case something were to happen to the president. You're there to replace him and continue running the functions of the state. But the question of whether it's easy or it's possible for one from the VP's position to ascend to the presidency, it's a question that is to be answered with regards to, once the president leaves, what has been the legacy that you supported loyally for 10 or 20 years or 5 years in regards to the effect it has had to the economy and the lives of the people. So assume all factors remaining constant, there is always a question of the way you're going to judge a deputy president is with regards to how the pact they had with the president, they have actually fulfilled it. Because these are two people who are coming in and promising to deliver on something for the citizens, and they get voted in, and this is kind of a backup plan to help the president implement it. So the difficulty that comes in naturally is, if the president has not performed so well, then obviously the deputy president is going to have a difficult time to convince the citizenry otherwise that he was better than the president.
This history is not really based or founded on performance.
Yes, but again, it comes into, if you look at Jaramogi's history, and the reasons why he was already in ideological difference with the founding president, then it was going to be based on performance, because they were disagreeing on the ideology that was being used to run the country from the onset. But later on, I can say that might have been misinterpreted to mean that people thought that the vice president is not supposed to have a power or a say towards the presidency. But again, there is no way the president who was elected with the president is going to sit in government and purport in any way to oppose the president. The only honest thing for one to do is to leave government and take up that role. But currently, as you look at it, I don't really see any possible reason other than pure politics of fear of who's going to possibly be elected to be president that is causing the current deputy president and the president to seemingly be in disagreement.
All right.
All the discussions rotating around that are not based on performance or ideology or anything, because 2 years ago, this is the deputy president who was so vocal in defense of the president and his policies and everything he was doing around from 2013 to around 2017 elections. The whole discussion comes when the BBI sprang up, Now there are differences because he doesn't support seemingly doesn't support the BBI and is not so happy with one or two things that are happening. So the discussion of history repeating itself, possibly they say if you're not careful enough, history is likely to repeat itself. So the question, whatever is written in the newspaper is right, but the realities of it, I think, are so far different from just history barely repeating itself.
Okay. One reality that seems common with the Odinga's case and DP Ruto's case is somebody is trying as much as possible not to allow them to become national figures enough or to brand themselves enough. Well, that is according to how the DP has claimed that the system is trying to stop him. And Jaramogi Odinga's sentiments as quoted here, that in the cabinet I was being excluded from decision making, and at one and the same point my membership of the cabinet was used to silence me and to hold allegiance of my supporters not only in Nyanza but throughout the country. We have had similar sentiments from DP Ruto. Edgar, what do you have to make out of this?
Odinga was started when he was found to be supporting the communist of the USSR, communist system, until he formed a school in Thika, supporting, training the KANU people on the socialist issues. And that is where even the ambassador of the USA in Kenya came in and started propaganda against Odinga. So he had even forces from outside monitoring him in Kenya. And that is how the ouster of Odinga started. Now, him being used to rubber stamp cabinet things that were coming out, whatever the cabinet decided, is also being seen with the DP Ruto right now. The difference with Ruto and Odinga is that Odinga gave in and resigned.
Right.
That is not the case with Ruto right now. Ruto is saying, I am fighting on. The difference with Odinga, with Ruto, is that Odinga did not amass wealth. Ruto has amassed wealth and has decided to fight on. History is the best teacher.
Right.
Do you go and keep quiet in your house because the president has said that you should not be part of the presidency? Or do you come out guns blazing?
All right. One of the things you've mentioned is amassing wealth, and
yes.
Analysts in the past, particularly Anyang' Nyong'o in a bit of his articles, talks about Jaramogi Odinga bowing out because he could not tolerate the corruption or the ills that are happening within that system. DP Ruto has been accused of being comfortable with corruption, being part of the system that is corrupt and of amassing wealth in ways that cannot be accounted for. Do you think that has a relationship with their reaction? One reacted by bolting out, one reacts by remaining in.
I don't know whether to support William Ruto on air for amassing wealth or anything, but I am forced to say that if the narrative of corruption should be taken to court.
But what is your judgment on the narrative that he has amassed wealth in ways that cannot be accounted for?
Now, it's Odinga, it's Raila Odinga who cannot account for it. You know, now the people of Kenya have been told that William Ruto is corrupt and stuff. Let us deal with it legally. But, sorry, William Ruto is quoted by, when he said that the leadership of the country, you cannot get leadership without money, without resources to take on the leadership of the country. So if he took someone's money, let someone go to court and we can settle that thing in court. The public propaganda has been propagated. Now, let me tell you about Odinga. Odinga did not resign because he could not tolerate the corruption that was there. That is another narrative. Odinga was ousted. He could not even sit in cabinet, in a cabinet meeting. He could not make a decision. The whole country was against him.
What was different between his ideologies and the ideologies of the system then in your judgment?
They wanted him out. There were two kingpins of the Luo Nyanza,
right.
Tom Mboya and Oginga Odinga. Tom Mboya was instrumental in shutting down Odinga. making two brothers fight. After that, they eliminate the brother.
I'm asking about ideology because I mentioned the land issue, and that is one
Yes.
that came out quite prominently. He was against the system amassing land for itself and suggested that there should have been a law in place that created a ceiling of some sort, the maximum amount of land somebody should own. And we are aware that that system then amassed land for itself. Do you not think that his ideology separated him and caused him to be isolated because there was rot in that system?
Well, it might have isolated him.
Right.
But the problem is, didn't the bright Tom Mboya see this? You see, it might have been the problem that way because Kenyatta Senior amassed land. And Raila Odinga tells us that the land of Kenyatta Senior is as big as Nyanza province combined. It might have been a problem then, but Oginga's opposition was seen as a threat to the government. You see, was seen as a threat to the government, and he didn't see that as he didn't see the amassing of land as a way of life. You know, we have problems with sitting governments,
Right.
and when you're seen as an opposition, you are ousted. You are ousted in a way that even you wouldn't know. But for me, my wonder is that how can a brother be used to oust another?
All right.
No.
Because we're calling them brothers in this context because they came from the same tribe. All right. Brotherhood. Actually, do you know why he said it's Raila that's against...
Possibly because I think
Anyway,
he's being political.
actually,
No, he can argue. He can talk.
he might not understand it as much as I do, but that was an attack in some way, which is allowed. Anyway, he talks about the difference between Jaramogi Odinga and DP Ruto in this case, being that Jaramogi Odinga was successfully ousted, and the position of DP Ruto right now is quite a slippery slope as well, because there's been the mention of impeachment and all that, but he looks like he's taking on the system. Another prominent reaction was with Mwai Kibaki as well. He did not take on the system, and and it was reduced to being a native leader. We know that later on he became a president. Let us look at the reactions of these vice presidents and which one was suitable for that era or the politics of then. Did they serve them right? Comparing Ruto's reaction as it is, because now he is taking on the system.
Well, if you have the discussions on why Odinga left the government, it's clear that it was ideological and it was not only being spearheaded by him. Particularly, Odinga leaves government after the assassination of one Pio Gamapinto, because he was seemingly the brains behind everything Jaramogi Odinga was doing. If you were to follow that history, you realize they were going to have a motion which might have actually ousted the sitting president, then President Kenyatta, through an introduction of a parallel, what they call Sessional Paper number 10 of 1965. Now, this was a purely ideological difference to which even Pio Gamapinto, before his assassination, was completely disagreeable with, or with the President Kenyatta, with regards to amassing land, with regards to having resources that were supposed to compensate people who had been detained without trial by the colonial government, and actually not paying them. Because the tune of the sum that is recorded is close to 14.4 million euros by then, close to 1.4 billion or something to today. So that was a mega scandal upon which, if somebody or somebody's leadership was founded on principles, it was justified for him to leave and try to pursue another avenue on which to get justice. President Mwai Kibaki, when he was vice president, he opted to leave. Possibly he knew that he couldn't take on a fight with the system, which is literally state capture. A few people deciding on what must be done, whether or not it's in the interest of those who maintain them through paying of taxes and working for the country. For them, it doesn't matter. Now, the deputy president's discussion here becomes a little bit interesting, because on one part, you have him when he is in the first term of President Kenyatta, even being on the line of leading such an assault against civilians. Because the deputy president, for example, is on record in 2017 being on Al Jazeera and BBC saying that the protesters of the opposition leader, the former prime minister then, who are protesting for the electoral justice, he called them militias and said it warranted the police to use the force that they were using today. Now, Senator Orengo in Parliament then, he said that those people who are supporting such a system had to be careful because the system always stands back and starts eating their own. So it is just a question of one not being so careful with these actions when he doesn't have enough power to even fight for himself. So the decisions that he took against the citizens today who might sympathize with him, who might have sympathized with him, most of them feel that maybe it's a question of karma just going around. But if you look at it politically and leadership-wise, yes, he's complaining that there is a problem, that there is actually a system which is locking him out. And I think it's just justifiably right for one to say that in his cries, there might be some truth in it. To what, however deep it goes, it's a question, if you look at the history, it becomes clear that if you're disagreeable with those who are in leadership and those who have amassed enough wealth that they need the government supports always to be protected, then they are justifiably, for their own reasons, to oppose the deputy president from ascending to the presidency, as he always says that is the reason he's being opposed. But ideologically, if it was, he would have actually vacated office long time ago, but it's not ideological difference.
All right. Edgar, I'm bringing this to you. He has mentioned ideology. Well, take it out first.
No, I wanted to add something before you asked me.
Right.
In 1978 also, to stop Vice President Moi from ascending to power, there was a BBI. There was the changing of the constitution, which people tried. Mwai Kibaki and Njonjo stood with Moi. That's why in their next government, Njonjo was a key figure, and Mwai Kibaki was also a key figure. There have been attempts to bring down every vice president sitting in history.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually that ties in quite well. History aside, and within the claims that there have been attempts to bring down every sitting vice president, and it looks as if the attempts are basically to prevent them from being national figures so that they can ascend to power, even though Mwai Kibaki actually succeeded. Now, the question the question would therefore be, in this case, presently, we have DP Ruto, who, as Wakili mentions, was quite in support of the system and supported what a section of citizenry actually thought was vile in the system. We have murders that happened after elections in areas like Lakisama, where doors were broken into and the police used too much force. People who were not properly identified as policemen, and the DP Ruto was very much in support of all that was acted, that was done by the system. Right now, he is heard mentioning that the system is against him. This that now happens to be a division between the system and the DP, is it ideological right now? Is it political right now? What exactly, in your judgment, has caused the separation between the system and DP Ruto? Because we thought he was part of the system.
The National Security Council has a few cabinet secretaries. It has DP Ruto, it has the president. And most of the things are decided at the national security level. But the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is one.
All right.
When the president says that the police and the provincial administration is one, and it is part of the system, and it is one part of the system is big. The system has a provincial administration here.
All right.
The system has the directors of parastatals here. The system has the parliament, both parliaments. So administration, police, and administration system is one of the system commanded by the president himself.
All right.
That's why when DP says people are being told they should not attend my function. It means the command is coming from the commander-in-chief.
Right. Would it be factual to imagine that when DP Ruto and the president were still united, he probably contributing into building this system? And that probably he has bodies or personalities within this system whom he was involved in, putting into the system.
As I said earlier, there is only one leader of the country.
Right.
And there is only one command in the country. And if Ruto was in support of that, then he was supporting the president. And the president's word is final to one system, to part of the system. This is part of the system. The police is one part of the system, and it has done many things.
Right.
And there is only one boss of the police. And the office of the DP is not connected to the police in any way, or the DOD in any way. There is no assistant commander of
in chief.
In chief.
Right.
Yes. So he is totally outside. And if the president decides to take away the powers of William Ruto, he takes them away just like that.
He can strip them away in a second. All right, I have to take a break at the top of the hour. Somebody will say, if the system eats its own people, has it already started to make that statement true? And also it reminds us of one writer that talked about things falling apart. Well, the context was entirely different because it had one person, one character who could not accept change, but still are things falling apart. Where I come from, they said things fall apungulu pangla. Don't go too far. This is TV47 Breakfast. We are coming in to actually look at Justin Muturi, the Speaker Justin Muturi's proposal that Kenyans do not have to elect a president, that apparently the most popular party can now nominate a president. And if this goes through, what would that mean for the country? Would you be all right with that? Don't go too far. All right, welcome back. This is the TV47 Breakfast, and the hashtag remains TV47 Breakfast on Twitter and on Facebook as well. The conversation goes on. We're looking at what's happening in our country and through the eye of the paper. Do call in and give us your analysis as well. Be part and parcel of this analysis. We say that this is the station that gives the youth a platform to drive the general agenda. The seniors should definitely not have the final say. And for that reason, I have one more panelist joining us, Cyrus Litzer, who is a political commentator and a political analyst as well. Did I get it right? There's something I missed. Karibu sana. What happens ni ukifika kama watu washaanza kula, wakati mwingine uende ukapata bakshish. So be careful. Welcome, and I still have Wakili Rakweri, Karibu sana, and I also have Edgar Koski. We are yet to tackle something quite interesting. The task force that has the responsibility or had the responsibility to collect proposals from the public actually concluded that yesterday. Tony Murigi called it Tamati ya Kikao cha BBI. One of the proposals that came forward from the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi was calling on a new policy that would have political parties nominate a president, the most political party or the most political outfit, meaning a coalition, nominate a president, and that would translate as well to the position of governor. This would therefore mean that the president is not elected by the people. The president is not elected when we go to the ballots to actually have elections. Another proposal that stood out was that counties should elect 2 senators, one male senator and another female senator. And he claims that right now 20 counties have more than one senator without any scientific rationale. Nobody can really explain why one county has more senators than the other, because we have 67 members, 47 elected, while we have 20 who are nominated. what actually would be the center of this conversation is how would it play out if we didn't have to go to the ballot to elect a president and have a political outfit nominate a president? What is your judgment on this? And I begin with Edgar Kosgei. This definitely means that we would be adopting a different system, wouldn't it?
Justin Muturi appears to be very flamboyant in terms of his thinking. He's thinking outside the box too much. That is way outside the box. Because it looks like a parliamentary system.
Right.
It looks like it. Because we are not electing the president. We are giving a mandate to a party to elect a president. We are electing people who will now go and sit and give us the leader of the nation. Which is way like the parliamentary system that the BBI people are proposing to give us. But there are things I agreed with Justin Muturi. Like one, a constituency should not have more than 200,000 people. A representative should only represent a maximum of 200,000 people.
Right.
That means the most populous place in Kenya will get more MPs. And when you get more MPs, you have the power to push an agenda of a prime minister. It's a backdoor way of telling you people, even if you come and give us the parliamentary system, then we'll still determine who becomes president. I back him in that because it is fair.
Right.
It is fair. Other proposals, which was backed by the High Court one time, is that any budget proposal that is proposed by Parliament and affects the county in any way should be looked at by the Senate. And the Senate should be made the upper house. Right now, that is not happening. The National Assembly flexes its muscles and shows the Senate that you're down. No. Right now, there is push and pull. The proposals that are given, except this one for the parties by Muturi, which I think it's too much, the proposals are fine.
All right. Yes. Okay. Wakili Edgar has taken us out of the president's bit of it and actually given us a bigger picture. And he's mentioned parliamentary system. And the question is, would this be founded still on the proposed parliamentary system? I'm certain, however, just as many people do not understand what the BBI is all about, that so many of my viewers this morning don't understand what a parliamentary system would entail. Before we look at how this would play out if it is adopted in the proposed parliamentary system, maybe just take us through what parliamentary system is and how different it is from the current system that we have.
Well, a parliamentary system, most people tend to associate it with the kind of a leader that it has in government. And most people tend to think that a parliamentary system is only led by the prime minister. But this is a system of governance whereby you have the head of government being elected by parliament. A good example of a parliamentary system which is still led by the president is South African system, whereby you have members of parliament who are elected. Then once they reach government, they elect a president and not a prime minister. So what Justin Muturi, the Speaker of the National Assembly, is proposing is a parliamentary system.
Right.
The only question is at the top of a parliamentary system, it's not about who is the head of government, the title he gets, but it's the mode of how you get the head of government. So his proposal is for the parliamentary system,
right,
but the head of government will not be the prime minister.
All right. What is your judgment on this proposal? How effective would it be? Would it deal with what BBI initially tried to deal with, that is mitigating or stemming out violence that happens every time we have transition in governance?
Well, the whole question of BBI, you don't have to look at it from exactly what you have. You have to look at BBI from what is given as the main reason why it's there. The main reason for BBI, they say it's inclusivity. Uniting all tribes in Kenya and finding that the tribes should be able to work together during and after election. But the question is, how is adding the positions of prime minister or changing the election of a president, either directly through people to members of parliament, going to ensure that there is inclusivity? The most important question you're asking is, what is inclusivity in this sense?
Right.
Does inclusivity mean that once somebody has lost to capture a certain seat in an election, if he gets that seat, then I'm included in it? To me, inclusivity will have a meaning that you have a government which takes care of every citizen within the country, including the allocation of resources, which causes this animosity of tribalism and causes the divisions, because there is a feeling that once you have one person from your region holding this position in government, then people from that region are actually going to benefit. It's not just a feeling, it's a reality. You hear the people saying that the president has been in Nyanza this number of times because of the handshake, and now we are going to get this road. Does it mean these people have been in another republic before there is a truce between the opposition leader who comes from this region and the president? No, it's just a myopic kind of leadership, I'll call it so. The discussions around BBI from the onset and whatever it intends to achieve in terms of sharing the position, that is misguided and it's selfish amongst the political class.
Right.
But it is an opportunity for people to share out the concerns and try to craft solutions for problems such as electoral justice.
Right.
If you're to look at electoral justice, it becomes a question that after every 5 years and you go to election, you find that a person who's lost in the election, unfortunately in the case it's only one, who will always come up and say, I've not lost fairly. They'll go to court, but the outcome will not be I've lost fairly. In my own judgment, in as much as the mode of election might be that important, but it's a question of you having a dirty house, and instead of cleaning it up by first trying to focus on how you're going to deal with electoral justice, you try to demolish everything by doing away with the whole constitution and saying that by doing away with the whole constitution, you're going to find this unity, you're going to find this inclusivity. Then when are you going to deliver on the agenda that you promised?
Okay.
So the question of the BBI and whether or not the proposals make sense, they make sense, but are they timely? You are yet to test your constitution to the last iron in it. You cannot say that this is the time to do away with all of it. There are small other things that you can deal with. Majorly the electoral justice, yes. The mode of election, we are an ethnically divided country, that is correct. Going parliamentary, I think, is useful because it's going to make sure that all people from all regions, by way of member of parliament, they are going to take a participation in the election of a president. And if we are lucky, we might turn out like South Africa, having an accountable parliament, and we also have a responsible executive.
Sure, all right. So what's your judgment on this, the proposal of nominating a president?
Looking at the proposal of nominating a president, I will go back to the issues people had, the voters had, when they were told they have to nominate, the parliament has to nominate, or the party with the largest members of parliament have to nominate a prime minister. The people said, no, we cannot. Let us vote for a person we want ourselves. So it still goes back to the people. People will still people will still come and say, no, we don't want to have be given a president that we ourselves have no say to. We want a president that will be able to have a say to. Because you see, Parliament nominates the speaker or appoint the speaker after it has been sworn in. So that it can preside over the swearing in of the parliamentarians, whereby a common man has no say on the speaker. So what the common man is avoiding is this issue of being given a leader whom he cannot have a say to, but only a few have a say to that leader.
Right.
So these are some of the things that we are looking at and avoiding to have when we are thinking of solving the problems that we have. Now, on another issue that I also want to look into is you were earlier discussing about the vice presidents. You see, a minute. You see, I want to support the cause that the ouster of Jaramogi was on ideology, because he differed with the president on ideology, especially on issues to do with land.
Right.
He believed differently. Okay, so this one made him become an enemy of the system by then. Then when you come to the deputy president whom we have right now, the issues that they are bringing up today is not on ideology. These people have been working together like lovebirds. Okay, now the issue is political interest that is coming in 2022. Okay, that one is outsmarting the other. You should not outsmart your leader. Okay, so that is what
should not meaning it is not allowed.
Okay, fine. Within the constitution, he's allowed to have a contrary opinion with the president.
Right.
Within the constitution, there's that provision in the constitution. And that's why you see he's also staying put or standing put to ensure that he has a contrary opinion to the president, which is right within the constitution, because the constitution has given. Because this one is not appointed. Right. He was elected by the president, and you see the former vice presidents, these were nominated, and you see the president had power. He could do anything to do away. The vice president could not be impeached, but the deputy president can be impeached. These are the differences that we should look into today, and not focus on how Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was outside. But these were different systems by then. And when he comes out and talks of the system, you cannot say that the AP is a system, the police is a system. There's a system. There's a system that controls and says who will be the president of this country.
All right.
So you cannot run away from that.
Cyrus, listen, you're taking us 10 steps backwards.
No, we had to give him time.
I actually avoided that.
Yes,
but thank you very much.
But he's wrong.
No. I'd like us to take a short break. And before we look at the general proposals that were given, because also the proposal of how to impeach a governor and how to impeach a president were within these proposals, there's something very critical that Wakili has mentioned about resources, or about the conflict that happens within some areas who do not believe that when they don't have power, that they can also have an equal share of the cake. I think I have paraphrased it correctly. Yes, and if that this will actually bring a solution. But let's take a short break right here so that we can come back with a further discussion on this. Do remember that you have a chance to take part in this discussion as well through calling in live or texting, or you can also find us on social media as well, RTV47KE on Twitter and on Facebook. Don't go too far. Welcome back. This is still the TV47 Breakfast Show with me, Corazon Stefan. We're looking at what is happening in our country through the eye of the people. And currently, what stands out is a proposal that was forwarded by National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi. Several proposals given really, but we're looking at one proposal before we look into the others, that the most popular outfit or political outfit or party would have a chance to nominate a president. What would that mean? And Cyrus Little took us steps back, talking about the cast of vice presidency, and he says what happened with Oginga Odinga is a very different issue from what is happening with the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto. Christopher Musumba, you say, Kenyans, we are jokers. If Ruto stole a table, where did Kenyatta family get wealth? Where did Moi family get wealth? Where did Raila Odinga family get wealth? ETC. All politicians steal from poor Kenyans, public funds and land. Well, Mwangi FC, you saying Machakos hatuko, kama basi Snip or DJ Snip, Mark mwenyewe kama unasikiza, Mwanga anasema kwamba kule Machakos hatupo, mwangalilie ni kipi kinatendeka. Davis unasema kwamba you're still streaming live. Go on, join the conversation. Christopher, you're saying you're following. Join the conversation on Twitter and as well as Facebook, hashtag TV47 Breakfast. We're streaming live and we'd like your view as well. All right, so let's you talked about, you took us, well, way back, but that aside, Kosgei, talking about the proposal of having the presidency or the choice of presidency done differently, majorly because the foundation of BBI, as a result of the handshake, was to do away with the violence that comes with every election. And the violence that comes with every election, it is assumed that it's a result of
winner take it all.
Inequality, exactly, and inequality within the sharing of resources. And that the areas that feel like they don't have the power, the presidency, don't get an equal share of the cake. Would this be a solution? Would Nyanza and Coast and Western regions feel like if they have a nominated president from a popular political outfit, that would be a solution?
Let us do it practically.
All right.
In let's say in 2017, we had two major political parties, Jubilee and NASA. And let's say Jubilee as a political party was voted in. And automatically, they took themselves aside and voted the president, Kenyatta, and William Ruto was the deputy, and all those other people. Would it have solved anything? Sometimes we think too much. We say, now this is going to help us. It's not going to help us. We need a different kind of approach, which is not this. Sometimes we imagine that if we give political parties power to give the president, it will solve fighting. It will solve rigging. You might rig in a party. And you might rig out a party if you want. What will stop you from rigging? These are, people are trying out things. We are trying out the parliamentary system, going into parliament and getting all the MPs vote for your MP. Right now, Muturi is giving us an outside the box thing, which is too far outside the box of electing a political party, which can rig itself in again. When we are giving proposals, let us use the current system to measure proposals. Otherwise, we will be going to sit before this Haji team and talking nonsense the whole day, from morning to evening. All those recommendations are fine. But electoral violence, we need to look at it from another angle. Yeah, and comparing it with the current system.
Okay. All right. Before we look at the definition of democracy, Wakili, and what this would mean if we had a parliamentary system that takes away the power of electing a president from the citizens. You mentioned distribution of resources, and I'm trying to take a mental picture of what is happening in Nyanza currently, that the populations are charged most of the times to fight or to go to the road because they feel that for years they are poor because they haven't had power with them. And some of these proposals that are given, expanding the executive or giving more positions to different people so that we can spread this, are intended to actually calm down the areas that feel left out when it comes to distribution of power, which is somehow ironically equivalent to distribution of resources as well. I'm trying to look at the coastal region, which is in poverty, sinking in poverty and illiteracy and very many other things. What would work if distribution of power wouldn't work? What would be the solution?
Well, look at this scenario, the reality of a scenario. You have the BBI proposing that you're going to get a prime minister, you're going to have a minister of state affairs coming to lead, and it will enable equality and resource sharing. But this is the practical scenario. You have a Kenyan who works so hard to earn 100 shillings a day to survive on it. And what they do with the 100 shillings is to make sure that they have done everything from entertainment to buying food. How is an extra prime minister, how can you explain logically going to ensure or going to guarantee this person that with the work that you do, or you'll have more work and you'll not earn 100 shillings a day, you'll earn 300 shillings a day, or you'll earn a basic minimum of 200 shillings. There are two likely scenarios of sharing resources through increasing the number of people who hold positions. One is through looting. I will be able to loot, then I'll be able to check to my people and we share with them. Two, it's through what we are having, also partly in addition to looting, unequal governance. I'll be able to only concentrate from my region because those are the people who elected me. The question here is not about how much power is shared to who. It's about how responsible are the leaders we are going to get with regards to being accountable to the promises they make to the electorate.
I have a question with that. Is it really factual? Is it really true that areas that have power are doing better economically? Or isn't this a mental game that needs to be broken? Because we know that we have people from the Kikuyu nation who are farmers and right now are suffering in the hands of this government. The same way we have farmers in Mumias or in Homa Bay who are still suffering in the hands of this same government. Wouldn't it be a mental game that would free tribes from fighting against each other? Not necessarily because it will increase one's pocket, the money they have in their pocket from 100 shillings to 300 shillings. Wouldn't this be a freedom mentally for most tribes?
If the question is going for it to be a freedom, then the discussion altogether around saying that it's only important to bring in more leaders, including those who've lost, to be able to bring unity has to stop and end there. And the focus should be, what is the problem in Western that this administration has not addressed? What is the problem in Coast that this administration has not addressed? And how is the BBI, for example, or how is the addition or inclusion of a prime minister in government going to address that problem? We understand it's a reality that we have tribalism. We all face it during the election time. That is when people forget that today the concern is not about how I'll be able to feed myself for the next 5 years, but the concern is about how my tribesmen or tribeswomen are going to get into that position. Now, this is a discussion which is actually being spearheaded by politicians. Actually, what we risk doing is constitutionalizing major tribes' claim to the stake at the national level. You assume you have major tribes having alliances, and they are the only ones who can have alliances strong enough to form government. And you are also telling them that if you lose, you still have a stake. You'll get a prime minister position or whichever other position imagination can bring or will bring to the table at the end of the discussion. The question is, what about a small tribe? Don't they deserve to get representation? Don't they deserve to also get resources?
Right.
They actually do deserve. The issue is, the focus is so much on people who created problems, and the reality is that they cannot be part of the solution to those problems.
Okay. Sarah, listening to you gentlemen and knowing very well that you are currently the leaders that are, at the prime of driving this agenda, it seems like most of the proposals that have been forwarded and that exist when it comes to solving the issue of violence during the transition of governance might not be the right proposals. With gathering from this discussion, So, but then these proposals have already been taken, and the caravan is on the road, moving from one county to another. And the conversation right now is who is not attending and who is attending. What is going to become of us as a country, and why isn't anybody talking against this? What is happening really?
Actually, to answer your question, that why is no one talking about this? Because the president himself is supporting the whole process. So there's no one who will come out and talk and be heard. Okay? Another thing is, when you look at the 2010 Constitution, we brought the 2010 Constitution with a belief that it will end electoral violence, it will end electoral injustices, it will end electoral fraud and other things. But in the real sense, we come to realize it has created it more and more than it was before. Now, what we only need to do is right now is not to look at the creation of positions. Let us not believe that creating positions will solve our tribal problems. Creating positions will end our poverty. Creating positions will make us more poor. Because one, economy is being looked at one point, not at the larger population. Now, when we want to solve the problem that we have, it's not about my tribe, but it is about them. Let us look at the ministry, like the Ministry of Industrialization. Let us ask ourselves, how many industries have the Ministry of Industrialization created so that it can nurture the youth who is skillful in one or the other, so that we can improve the economy of this country. Because the economic drivers of this country are the youths, okay, who are graduating from the university. After graduating, where are they going? There are no spaces that are going to accommodate them. They are going to be on the field. They are going to be thugs outside here. Now, what we need to do is not having a rotational president or having what prime minister or having what, but what we need to do is have the system that are working. Let us ask ourselves. We have the trade and industrialization ministries at the county levels. What are they doing together with the Ministry of Industrialization at the national level, so that we create job opportunities for these youths? Let us look at the other things. When we talk of that, when a president is coming from a certain tribe, the tribe will be more richer than the other. No. A poor man in central Kenya and a poor man in western Kenya are the same. A farmer who is crying in central Kenya and a farmer who is crying in Rift Valley are the same. You see, a farmer who plants tea in Rift Valley and some parts of western, and a farmer who plants coffee, and a farmer who plants the same tea and coffee in central Kenya are the same farmers who are crying. Now, what solutions do we need to bring to these farmers so that we can have economic drivers in the country, so that we can increase our economy from where it is to upper scales? These are some of the things that we should be questioning. These are some of the things that we should look into. Not just say about, not all about the leadership, and leadership is all about what people call conmanship and other things that won't help us, actually. But it will bring much divide to this country.
Thank you very much. It's quite ironical that one of the leaders seated next to me is talking about leadership as being conmanship, generally. Anyway, thank you very much. Hold on a bit. Jojo Tieno, you're saying you woke up to update yourself on current affairs and you're impressed. Thank you very much. And Dante's on Facebook. I see you saying you're following closely. I'd like your opinion on this as well, just besides following. What do you think about the proposals given towards the BBR report, especially by Speaker Justin Muturi, a nominated president or not? But because this has taken more of a conclusive trajectory, the nominated president bit of it, and what it would do to us as a democracy, let us look at other proposals as we finish. Another proposal was that it should be harder to impeach a sitting president by making the Supreme Court another layer of appeal mechanism. And also the proposal that was forwarded, and this I'm sure was by the Senate Majority Leader together with the Senate Minority Leader, if I'm not wrong, was to review the threshold for the removal of a sitting governor. Currently, as it is, you only need 24 out of 47 elected senators to actually pass an impeachment 51 motion. Take that together with the fact that now he says we need more senators, a female senator and a male senator, as we take a conclusion on this. Edgar.
I wanted first to contribute to what Sarah Slits was saying. Now, when you say that the farmer here and the farmer here are the same, but the infrastructure is not the same. When the president is concentrating on his backyard to build a barabara ya lami, Ndewa, the backyard of Raila Odinga iko na mchanga, as in the barabara itself is impassable. Right now, the president has allocated around 10 billion for Nyanza, for electrification of Nyanza. Where was it? Kericho is, people are saying wanaoga na stima. You know?
That's dangerous, you know. Go on.
Yeah, so there's a difference in infrastructure when you have a president at home. Let's get that one clear. But Vile Rakuri amesema 200 shillings cannot be, you cannot be promised more
Right.
of that amount of money. But infrastructure is key.
It's key in actually making that money more.
Yeah.
I want also to differ with Edgar on some point. When we have good legislatures, when you have good members of
I had not
parliament,
finished.
these things will be well done than when you look at the presidency. You know, when we take everything and put at the presidency, that's where we go wrong. Okay, and this narrative we should get it out of the people. We should not take everything and put at the presidency. Let us first of all start with our member of county assembly. What roles do they have?
Okay.
What roles are they supposed to build?
All
Okay,
right.
and that's why I say that in every county we have the Trade and Industrialization Ministry. Okay, we have at the national level the Ministry of Trade and
Cyrus,
Industrialization. When
let's
we sit
Edgar.
down and discuss around this,
Can Edgar
then we
finish
shall
his
get
statement?
everything right.
Thank you. Can Edgar finish also, so you can actually count it together?
Cyrus, calm down. You can give him water. or the breakfast that we took before he came.
Oh, yes.
You know he's a late comer and he's coming to make noise in the studio.
Sure, go on.
Now, Raila Odinga realized that everything depended on the presidency. During Raila Odinga's time, he allocated CDF at 109 million to every sitting MP. That is what started to equalize. Now, I have my proposal to the BBI task force as I'm sitting here. Let's not concentrate on leadership. Let's follow the money. The proposal that they said that 45% goes to the counties, that is proper. And even someone in Nyanza will be comfortable with receiving 50% of the national revenue home. We will not come to Nairobi to do what? We have the money. Another proposal, you talked about the Supreme Court being involved in the process of impeaching the president, the deputy, and the governors. It is a welcome move in advanced countries. If you watched the impeachment of Trump, there was a sitting High Court judge
Supreme.
as an arbiter.
Supreme.
Fairness. The Supreme Court judge sat down to oversee the ouster of my favorite president, Trump. You know, now, and the governors, ousting the governors should be an important thing that we have to look at, because people are riding on political inclinations to oust a governor. We should make it hard to get a governor out.
All right.
By getting a 2/3 majority.
Okay.
I know my friends here have problems with them, but it's okay.
Thank you very much. Actually, I think the one problem that Wakili seems to have is your favorite president. I'm not so
really,
sure.
not really.
I'm not so sure. Okay.
All-time performer.
All right. Go on, Wakili.
Okay, you see
About
the-
these other proposals as we wind up.
The discussion on proposals, you can say they are welcome. They are focusing on leadership, yes. But what my friend Cyrus is saying, that our focus should not be on leadership, is at best misguided. Without proper leadership, you are not going to have a country. We could give him very many examples. One good example is a country called Singapore. They were worse than us in 1965. We even are on record of giving them a loan of 5 million shillings. Today, they have the largest per capita income in the world. All that is achieved because of leadership. So the discussions we are having on what we are going to do, including how to impeach who, they are focused on only getting the right leaders in the office, giving them enough privileges and protection, and they have to serve us. If you talk about impeachment of a president and you have to take it to the Supreme Court, yes, it's a welcome move, but when are you going to finish the decision? The most important thing, as what my friend quoted, but it was not complete, is the Supreme Court Chief Justice in the US sits in that parliament so that one does not run to the Supreme Court again and say that no law was followed. I was impeached without laws being followed. He is there. Once you've impeached him, you are done. Had he been impeached, your favorite president, he would not have gone to Supreme Court. He would have gone home. Had it happened, he would have gone home. So the discussion of bringing in the Supreme Court and everything, it is some sort of obsession of trying to give some mandates to the institutions And you can end up with a discussion that Cyrus is trying to bring up, that the constitution has created more problems. This is an agreement on paper. If you can't live by what you agreed on paper, you'll end up blaming it.
Okay.
Without any goodwill, without any ethics, without you thinking that we agreed so that we can live by it. For a lifetime, you'll have this constitution under BBI amended. You will again come here in 5 or 10 years and you'll have the same discussion. This constitution has caused more problems.
Right.
Problems are not caused by these constitutions. We are the ones who live this legacy. We are the ones who create these problems, and we are the ones who must find solutions to these problems.
All right, thank you very much.
The biggest challenge we have is when we create short-term, when we come up with short-term solutions on leadership.
Like BBI.
Whichever way, I'm not objecting to what you're saying, because even look at the 2010 constitution. We came up with 2010 constitution saying that development will be all over, based on the counties. Let us not be short-brained when we come to reasoning and differentiating on leadership. And I'm not saying that we should not have leadership. What I'm saying is that let us have accountability. Let us have accountable leaders. Because one, even we, as people from a constituency, we are allowed to recall our members of parliament. Okay, but have we ever exercised this? We cannot exercise, because even if you exercise the same thing, the member of parliament will get protection from the MPs themselves at the parliament. What happened to the Mgwen MP one time? He was recalled by the constituent members, but what happened to him? He was reinstated by the MPs. Right. So these are some of the things that we should take to the people and give the people this power. And you see, the thing of the Supreme Court judge sitting on the impeachment is the best thing, because it will stop, or it will end these political interests.
Right.
Because good leadership should not have so much political interest after it. Okay? Because after elections, let us not concentrate on politics and on everything. Okay. Development, politics.
All right.
Something to be done somewhere, politics. Someone has done wrong, politics. Okay, someone has stolen something, my community is being targeted. You see, by doing this, we are not going to achieve anything, but we are going to fleece Kenya to a deadbed.
All right.
So we should be very much concerned with accountability of our leaders,
right.
And it is our role as voters to make our leaders accountable to us. Before he was a Mheshimiwa, he was just just somebody. He was a citizen before he came to ask for votes.
All right, thank you. I have 3 minutes, I guess, Mary, to wind up. So I'm going to give each one of you a minute each, and that is because one of the issues that was in the papers is the battle for the highest office going to be between Mudavadi and Ruto. And a conversation likely on this offset was that it is very probable that Uhuru Kenyatta might return the mantle to Raila Odinga, and the question is, would Kenyans allow that? Would such a thing, sink in well with Kenyans, knowing that, dynasty is not entirely democracy? A minute, Edgar, your final sentiments.
I haven't 3 minutes enough to discuss about that. Now, if you tell me that Kenyatta is returning the mantle to Raila Odinga, I would laugh. I would laugh. Because Kenyatta is only stabilizing the country by bringing Raila Odinga in. Wait until we get next to the next election, and then you see the true colors of Mr. Kenyatta.
Okay.
Another thing is that the presidency of Ruto is feared. They don't know what he might do. And the bigwigs have invested heavily in the country, and they're even scared of what they might do to their businesses.
Okay.
Now, let me finalize it saying this. The hustler nation and the dynasty thing is real. And your votes, by the way, don't matter. The person who counts the votes is the one who matters. And you might be given a Mudavadi presidency. Mudavadi is a lesser evil.
All right, thank you,
than the Odinga.
Thank you very much,
so
Edgar.
He might be in opposition the other time.
You have just rendered our democracy impotent in 1 second.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Wakili, exactly in a minute.
Well, the discussion of who's going to pass the mantle to who, it's political speculation to begin with, but it's likely to materialize if you consider the discussion that he's saying to be entirely true. But my thinking is, for politicians, they might have the chance to shape on how they want the discussion to be. But my only way to look at this will be for the Kenyans. Don't you think yourselves as Kenyans you can shape this discussion to be, in post-2022 you are going to be discussed on how much resources you're getting and how they are being utilized to you, rather than who's going to be sitting in that office? Of course, you do have the final say on who sits in that office. If you don't, then that is something worth you fighting for.
Okay, sure. So let's again, the question, remember, that we asked in that moment is, how smart would it be of Kenyans to accept dynasty politics in place of democracy? As you finish.
To me, I can say that let Kenyans not be taken for fools. Let us wake up, let us do the right thing, and let us choose the leaders that we want. Let us not go on dynasty or all these other things.
Right.
But let us consider a leader who will be ready to be accountable, a leader who will give us services, and not too much politics.
All right.
Because the one who cries will always cry.
Sure. The one who cries will always cry. We'll begin from there next time. Thank you very much for tuning in and remaining with TV47 Breakfast. Well, I probably should dig more on that, but I can see your contribution here on the item that National Police Service has rolled out a strategy that is intended to help police to handle shock in the line of duty. And I can see your response here, which shock, Charles MRD, you saying these people need cash, by the fact that walitolewa kwa barabara where they were collecting money, and also the introduction of IPOR and other things that have limited them from accessing corruption money. They will continue killing and killing themselves. Quite sad, I hope not. Dwayne D. Stones, you're saying it's just another improvised drill, which none of them will take into account seriously. Quite sad. Dame Hedgeton, you're saying long overdue. Dante's Shom, you have been with me since morning. Thank you very much. You're saying following. Vinny Kenny, you say F, and I'm going to assume that F in this case means following. Thank you very much for staying with TV47 Breakfast. My name is Corazon Stefan. I am still going to be part of the team that's bringing for you Gumzo Mitandaoni on what's trending on behalf of my colleague Emmanuel Terrer. Do not go too far. Keep it right here, but do remember these conversations go on social media at TV47KE on Twitter and on Facebook, and also you can find this bit on our website www.tv47kenya or .tv47ke.co.ke. Usiende mbali.